was a very big budget title, as we're going to get to in a second. But I remember heading into the release of this game that people were incredibly excited for the game, and I was as well, and we talked about this game a lot heading into the release, and I had some high expectations for the game. And an atmospheric, single-player-driven survival horror title was something that I was really excited for. It was a gruesome game, and there was a lot of aspects to the game that I liked, and I talked about that quite a bit. Now, I had played the game on PC, and unfortunately, this was one of the disaster areas for the Callisto Protocol, because this game was an absolute nightmare on PC. Launch day, absolute train wreck, where a lot of people had a litany of issues with the game, especially on PC, from the low frame rates, frame rate chugging, stuttering was really bad, to the point where a lot of people in the Steam review section called the game the stuttering protocol, and I imagine people bought the game on Steam and a lot of people did refund the game. Ultimately, the issues with the Callisto Protocol, for me, from a personal standpoint, did extend beyond just the performance issue. Those performance issues were absolutely there. However, the issues for me with the game were really from a gameplay standpoint, and I have heard a lot of people be pretty divisive about the gameplay in the Callisto Protocol. Some people really liked it, thought it was heart-racing, thought that it was an incredibly engaging experience. Me, on the other hand, and this seems to be a lot of people, I didn't really like the Callisto Protocol gameplay in the context of a survival horror game. I think it could work in a different style of game, but this dodging and then striking and then shooting, and it just didn't work. It seemed to work in the one-on-one encounters, but in Callisto Protocol, you have a lot of enemies coming at you at once at times, and it just didn't really work really well. I didn't even think the game was super difficult. It's not that. It just felt a little annoying and not really all that engaging from the context within the Callisto Protocol. That's what I'm saying. I think fundamentally, it's a style of gameplay that can work. I just think within the environment of the Callisto Protocol, it was just a jarring gameplay style. I think this game had a lot of strengths, though. I think narratively it was incredibly compelling. I think from an atmosphere standpoint, my god, this game is incredibly engrossing, and the horror that it actually sets in within the game and the tension it creates, I thought that was really well. And obviously, visually, the game looked quite well. It was a cross-gen title, so, you know, it was limited to an extent by that, but it looked very, very good. Unfortunately, from a sales standpoint, it looks like the game did not do all too well. Now, it was noted, and this is coming from Benji Sales on Twitter, great Twitter follow if you're into the analytical and financial side of game development and the gaming world. He's really been on top of the Hogwarts Legacy hype and build-up as far as that game, and that's one of the reasons when you look at all of the stats that Benji's put out, it's easy to see that game is going to be really big. But it was noted Krafton's new Callisto Protocol, which was released last month at a cost of about 200 billion won. Now, won is a different currency. It is a Korean currency, and it translates to about $162 million for this game. That does sound incredibly high, but when you factor in things like game development costs, marketing, and everything that goes into putting a big budget game like this out, it's not that big of a stretch, and it looks like that they had hoped that the game would sell about 5 million copies, but it sold under 2 million copies on a development budget of 168 million. Look, an expectation of 5 million copies on that kind of a budget for a new IP, yes, new IPs can be incredibly successful. Horizon Zero Dawn has sold an incredible amount of copies, but it's few and far between that games do that good. Callisto Protocol, if you had told me prior to the release of the game, could it hit 5 million? I would have said yes. Based on the anticipation and the hype, I was like, it could hit 5 million. It depends ultimately on how the game turns out, and if this is a game that sells well over time as well. Maybe it can crack that 5 million number, but I think the game came out, the reviews came out, they were looking a little mid, everybody heard the issues on PC, that definitely halted some of the sales numbers for the game as well, and ultimately, the game has not done all too well, and also, it is noted that it is observed to badly influence its future performance due to sales shortage. I imagine that is pointing towards follow-up titles, which this is a game that's gonna get more content. There was a season pass, and ultimately come summer of 2023, there will be story content that will be added to the Callisto Protocol. Currently, Callisto Protocol does have a mixed reception on Steam as well. I believe it's at 60% positive reviews, which isn't horrendous, but for Steam standards, that's not what you ideally want to see. You know, games like Sonic Frontiers and One Piece Odyssey are doing very, very well from a Steam review standpoint, and a game like Callisto Protocol obviously had more anticipation than those titles. I don't think that's too much of a stretch to say. Nonetheless, it's really unfortunate because this is the style of game I want to see more of. Like, I would love to see a Callisto Protocol 2. I think what they have there foundationally can be built upon and be something good. Some tweaks to the gameplay style and continuing to develop an atmospheric horror title, I think that could be really good. We know that DLC is ultimately going to come. You've already sold the season pass, so that, you don't have to worry about that. That content will be coming, but ultimately, will there be a Callisto Protocol 2? I don't know about that one, which is a real big bummer given that I remember when this game was revealed and it just immediately captured the gaming world's interest. You know, we kind of sometimes live in this bubble where our interests may not resonate at a higher level, but you have to capture our interest first, and then that can extend beyond, especially when it comes to a new IP. And I had some of my friends ask me, you know, they would see commercials for this game and whatnot, so obviously marketing was there for this game, but they were asking me how the game was, and the fact is, those of them that played on PlayStation 5, a $70 title, I was just like, you know, it's a little bit on the shorter side. The gameplay's not killing it for me. I would probably say wait on a sale for this one. And then obviously for my boys that were playing on PC, I was just like, man, read the Steam reviews, read the issues that people are dealing with this game right now. I can't in good faith say that this is a game that's worthwhile to buy given all those issues. And even beyond that, even beyond the issues on PC were absolutely prevalent and they were not great, but there were issues beyond that in the sense that this game had issues from a gameplay standpoint that ultimately I didn't see it being worth the full $60. And again, you could say that it was a shorter game. I don't really have a problem with that. You know, shorter games can be fine. A 10-hour game, even at a premiere cost, I think Dead Space Remake's going to turn out really well, and I think a lot of people are going to end up buying that, and I don't think it's going to be a huge issue that that game's $60 or $70 or whatever. 60 on PC, 70 on consoles. Resident Evil has been around for how long? And those games are generally received really, really well. It's not like Resident Evil games are super lengthy. And those are games that, you know, you play through once, maybe you put them down, and then you'll go back to in the future as well. But as far as Callisto Protocol goes, super disappointing news. But I think ultimately we were kind of expecting that once the reception of this game did come out. But interested to hear what you guys think. I know a lot of people did play this game, and a lot of people love this game. I